Thanks for listening to the Revival Today podcast with evangelist Adalis Shuttlesworth. To stay connected, check us out on Facebook and Instagram or online at revivaltoday.com. Now, here's evangelist Adalis.
Hey guys. We've got a special little broadcast here for you. We are tackling the questions that you guys have been sending, and honestly, the questions that you guys have been sending are enough to cover one of my podcasts. So welcome to all of you who are watching via Facebook, YouTube. What's good? If you've yet to subscribe to our podcast, I would like for you to subscribe, or as my daughter would say, subscribe. Okay, subscribe. Subscribe to this channel. It will bless you. Today, we are talking about addiction in the marriage, home, and marriage. When one of maybe a spouse, it would have to be a spouse since we are talking about marriage. When your spouse is addicted to drugs. What do you do? What do you do about that? And I'm talking not so much, you gotta, if they smoke cigarettes, if they smoke weed, this would be good advice for you to stand on, especially if they're smoking, weed, that you stand firm in the fact that you aren't real happy about that. But what I'm really focusing in on when it comes to the addiction is substance abuse. So whether it's alcohol, weed, if you're just fed up with the drug. He smokes weed right in your house, right? And in your basement, your children might be getting a contact high. It's time. Like what do you do in those times where your husband may be a heroin addict? Maybe your wife is popping pills and you just don't know, and you've done all you can. And so I'm talking to those people that have, prayed. You continue to speak life into the situation. You continue to pray and fast. But ultimately, you continue to, you're in this relationship and it's just like a wall. And now he's at the point where he doesn't even want to hear from God. He doesn't want to know of God. And you know what's sad is that there's lots of people that are in this that are believers. And you really need to have a heart of compassion when it comes to this. And don't, I want you to be very tread lightly and walk in patience and walk in love. That's so integral, because if you were to ask them one-on-one, like, you need to stop this, they know they need to stop this. They know they need to, they know that this is like a life-threatening thing. You don't have to tell them. They already know. So it's deeper than that. So what do you do, especially if you've got a believer who's addicted to drugs, whatever that drug might be? What do you do? How can you approach the situation? And what are you entitled to do at this point? And so I want to introduce our guest, who is going to give us a little bit of insight, because this is something that he's had to walk through himself. He and his wife. And so what is it? Because I was tossing up, different scenarios, and ultimately I want to give you insight and wisdom as to something that's actually going to work for you. Because I know you and I believe this person who contacted us, that she's a praying, godly woman, and she has fulfilled her obligation as to standing with her husband. She said that it wasn't working. Her telling him, like, this is wrong. Like, you are called to do this and you're not fulfilling that obligation. And it kind of pushed him away. It didn't kind of, it pushed him away. So what else can you do when you're in that mode? When you're like, I told him, now I'm walking in love. Now I just don't even talk about it. It's kind of like pacified, and I just love him too much to let him go. What can I do? What else can I do in this scenario? So without further ado, I'm glad then that you're listening to then, Quentin. And what do you do after you've prayed and fasted? And there's still seemingly no results for that. Because ultimately you're dealing with somebody else's will. That's a tough one. That's a real tough one, because it's something to believe for yourself. It's something to believe your children. You have domain over them. But when it comes to a spouse, they have full reign and full will to do whatever it is that they want to do. So what do you do in that scenario? Well, we have a caller in. Bring him on in. His name is Pastor Brian Tomes. Is he on?
Hello.
How you doing, Pastor?
Hello. Hey, Adalis, how are you?
I'm doing great. This is Pastor Brian Tomes. It was the first person that just popped up into my head in regards to this topic at hand. It's called addiction in marriage. Welcome to my podcast, Pastor Brian.
Glad to be on. Love you guys, and you know what I mean? Believe in everything that you're doing, and so excited to be able to help in any way we can.
It's going to be a good one. Well, I want to hear your take on somebody who's done everything in a home where both of them say that they're believers. So they met in church, maybe they met at somewhere that was godly, because it started off with two strong Christian people, and one of them veered off into drug abuse, and now she doesn't know what to do. And she loves him so much, doesn't want to give up on him, or maybe she doesn't want to give, or he doesn't want to give up on her. They love each other. The love is there, but she knows that this is not good. It's toxic to him, and she's caring about his well-being. What does a person do when they're in that scenario, when they've prayed, they've fasted, and their spouse seemingly doesn't want to have anything to do with God anymore? What do they do?
Well, first off, I know prayer and fasting is definitely going to get spiritual enlightenment and breakthrough in those areas. So, I would start there. But then what you do is most important to help. It's more the application just as much as it is the supplication that goes into helping somebody make the right choices. First off, if the addict doesn't want to change, he's not going to change. So you can't, everybody wants to correct the situation, but nobody wants to confront the situation. You can't correct what you don't confront. And so my suggestion to this woman would be that she needs to address the situation, she needs to confront it if she wants to correct it. Because ultimately people tolerate the behavior from the addict in the situation. And you've got to, number one, defund dysfunction. So the more, availability he has to resource to be able to, get his hands on money to buy drugs, and especially if it's some of her money. I mean, I wouldn't be funding the dysfunction at all. But she has to, ultimately confront the situation. And ultimately, what addicts are doing is they're choosing drugs over Jesus. They're choosing drugs over their spouse. They're choosing drugs over their friends. And what happens is the friends, the spouse, and not Jesus would tolerate, and what you tolerate, you actually promote. So by them tolerating the situation, they're actually not promoting it. They're enabled. You ever heard of the term enablement, Adalis?
Yes.
And so that's what happens. They end up enabling these addicts to continue to get high. If they can get high and there's not going to be any ramifications for it, they'll continue to do it.
So what do you suggest?
They need to be, what's that?
And what is your suggestion when you're in that position? Like actual practical steps.
Possible steps. Number one, I would confront. If I was this lady, I would confront her husband and say, and I'd put an ultimatum. Look, it's either me or the drugs. You've already clearly chosen drugs over Jesus, but now it's me or the drugs. And so I would start with the confrontation. I say it like this: if nothing changes, nothing changes. So what the confrontation should lead to is change.
Yeah.
What's going to change to bring the change? Because if nothing changes, right?
Right.
So I would confront, and then I would make some changes. Here's what I'm thinking: either you stop or you get out. Do you have children?
I don't believe so.
Okay, if there's no children, it's again, I wouldn't be, because what a drug addict will do is they'll drag her through the mud.
Right.
As a former drug addict, I didn't care what I was doing. I just wanted to get high. So, you start making poor choices, but those poor choices not only affect you, but they affect everybody around you. And so, I wouldn't put up with it. Knowing what I know now, being on the back end, I know what worked for me. As long as I could continue to get high and keep everything that I had, there was no problem.
Right.
But the minute it started costing me something, the minute it started costing me things, you see, most drug addicts end up getting right with the Lord and getting changed when they ultimately lose everything. So it's a term they call rock bottom. So he's got to hit like rock bottom. And so she could actually help him get to that place by not tolerating, the behavior. Systems create behaviers. And
right.
So if you want to change the behavior, you have to change the system. So her system is he gets high, she gets mad, they get in, an argument, then they make up, and then everything's okay.
Yeah. Then
he goes out and he gets high, she gets mad, they get in an argument, then they make up, and everything's okay. Then he gets high. It's a sick cycle. It's a circle. Yeah. And so that circle has got to be broken, and the way that you do that is by changing the system. And so she should confront, then she should initiate the change. Here's what's going to happen. If you continue to get high, you're going to move out, or I'm going to move out, one of the two. We're not going to be together. Now, we're not talking about divorce. We're talking about separation. And so what ultimately needs to happen is you have to, remove them from the situation or remove yourself from the situation. Because you can't, ultimately it'll just be another circle. So sure. Something's got to change in the system. So I would confront, I would, it's either me or the drugs. And so it's not the fact that you're moving straight to divorce. What you are doing is you're moving into a conversation or you're moving into a different system that's ultimately going to bring a different change. So I would confront, I would make changes, and then, you'd have to evaluate where you're going to be out in the situation. Most of the time, that would be a significant change that would actually get the attention of the addict to say, wow, is this really worth it?
Yeah.
Is the drugs really worth losing my wife? Is the drugs really worth losing my family? Is the drugs really worth it losing everything? Because until things start whittling away, the addict is in really like a drug coma. He's in a coma right now.
Sure.
He's in a drug stupor, so he's not thinking correctly. And what you're doing is you're helping him to think correctly, because what's going to happen is something's changed, and ultimately he's going to have to make a change because something's changed.
That's good.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. Is that what worked for you?
What worked for it just I got tired of it, Adalis. You know what I mean? Of all the heartache and the ups and downs in life, and ultimately, I mean, I ran the game for a long time. 12 years I dealt drugs and did drugs, and I was good at it, but ultimately until things start whittling away, then ultimately things start changing. That I was a little bit different situation, but ultimately in the scenario part of the thing, it'll help a drug addict make those changes a lot quicker.
And would you give the same advice if they had children?
I would, if I was her and I had children, I'd remove herself and the children from the situation.
Yeah.
Or remove him from the situation, because the kids shouldn't be going through all that. They shouldn't see their father all doped up and drugged out, or the fighting and all of that. That goes with that. So I would isolate that.
That's good stuff.
I'd remove them out of the situation. That's what I would do. It's a progressive. So you're taking one step. You're not going straight to divorce. What you're doing is you're making changes that are ultimately going to get you some changes. And so I've dealt a lot with addicts, and once you start making these changes, things begin to change, and ultimately it helps to get them to the place of self-actualization and realization a lot quicker. And certainly they start turning to the Lord and to help. Because until they realize that they need help, they're never going to get help. If they can continue to live in dysfunction, they'll continue to do it. So you have to stop the cycles. You have to confront the situation, and you have to stop, tolerating it, because what you tolerate is what you promote.
And I find it interesting, and because I know that a lot of people are going to say that's not the answer, separating from your husband. But you had made mention that it's really a violation of covenant.
It's because she never agreed to that.
That's right.
There was when they stood before the Lord, and they stood before a minister, and they came into an agreement or a covenant. That's what a covenant is. And a covenant's an agreement. So they came into an agreement. Now, these two started off, in Bible college. They planned on going into ministry together. They planned on serving the Lord together. And there was no mention of drugs or addiction. And so when a drug addict, introduced the drugs and started going down a different path, what happens is the agreement was broken. And so when the agreement is broken, there needs to be a new agreement amended. So that's what fixes a broken agreement, a new agreement.
Yeah. That's good stuff. Okay. Well, you heard it here, ladies and gentlemen. Confront, give an ultimatum, change the system, because it is a breach of covenant, which I thought, I guess, Pastor, like that, to me, I would have thought, just pray about it. But there has to be something else that compels them to move. Do you know what I mean? Like it's especially if she's already been praying, she's already been fasting and declaring. There's gotta be, and this ultimatum thing is something that I believe, along with you, is something that's necessary to help aid the fact that, listen, this is just a foresight of what is about to transpire. You're gonna lose everything, and if the fact of the matter is that you're putting your life, like it's a dangerous thing. Drugs and addiction is a very dangerous thing. So if you have children and he's got a vice, it's an expensive, costly thing. So there's going to come a point where what he's doing isn't enough. So he's got to tackle on something else. You got to have more. So it's literally like depleting your finances, and then you're going to owe. So, you're going to owe your drug dealer some kind of money. So where is he going to come to? He's going to come knocking on your door. And if you have children and you've got a drug dealer knocking on your door, or you're alone as a wife and people are looking for your husband, it's never a good position to be in. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah. Let me just say one thing. What she can do is offer him help. If you can't do this on your own, then get some help. There's wonderful programs out there. Teen Challenge is an amazing program. It's not just a program, it's a ministry.
Yeah.
Maybe that'll help him get back on track with ministry,
Sure.
Going back in there and finding his purpose again. His purpose isn't to be a drug addict. His
That's right.
purpose is to be a minister of the gospel.
Come on, say that.
And by getting him pointed in the right direction and stop allowing him to travel in the wrong direction will help make some change and bring some change. So Teen Challenge, you can get a hold of them. There's one in pretty much like every major city. There's help available. It's oftentimes, at a cost, but oftentimes if they don't have any, it could be free. Teen Challenge doesn't turn people away.
Yeah.
And so he's got to want to get help, and ultimately, defunding the dysfunction will help. Stop promoting it and stop tolerating it, and ultimately he'll make the right decision. He just needs to be pointed in the right direction. But she can't be dragged through the mud. She can't go through all the situation. It'll be a heartache after heartache. It'll be a broken a record. It'll just keep skipping and just keep going around and around the state. This could go on for 10, 15, 20 years.
Yeah, I know it. Yeah, so you have to, and it's exactly, if nothing changes, and if you're just kind of giving a blind eye to it, that's not going to work either. So if you've done everything you can spiritually, there has to be something manifested in the natural for you to do, and that would be to just not tolerate it anymore and say, I'm walking. But I like the fact that it's like divorce is not the thing. There's a separation involved. So whatever that leads to.
Things will change.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Think about it, right? I know, looking back at my addiction, if I literally woke up and everything was changed, then I'd have to make changes, right?
Absolutely.
If my wife had she was out the door, now I'm all alone. The person that I loved, the person that I stood at an altar with, is no longer there helping or trying to stop me. Everything would change. I'd have to have I'd have to come to my senses. What did the prodigal son do? The father let the son go, right?
Mm-hmm.
You can't stay here and do that. You got to go. So he ended up leaving. And the Bible says that when he came to his senses, he came back. So that's what's got to happen. But unfortunately, he had to squander everything.
Yeah.
I just wouldn't let him squander my stuff.
Oh, that's good. That's sound advice.
Stuff, but you ain't gonna squander my stuff.
That's true. You do
right?
have to. Yeah, you have to come to that crossroad. And speaking of crossroads,
there it is.
Speaking of crossroads, if you are anywhere in the Massachusetts area, this is the church to attend. Crossroads Community Church in Fitchburg, Massachusetts, right there on Ashby. Is that what is the street?
That's it.
Oh my gosh.
That's right.
Okay, because I put it enough times on my GPS to know that it's on Ashby.
State Road.
So you gotta. This guy has got it going on. His wife has a meeting tonight, right?
Tomorrow.
It's the 21st. Is the 21st already tomorrow? Good grief. His wife
tomorrow.
is speaking. If you're anywhere in that area, I want you to go. Maybe they have a registry online. I don't know. But I want you to go. Her name is Jessica Tomes, and she is a firehouse. She's a firecracker. And she's anointed to preach the word. So go. She's got a meeting there tomorrow. So if you're anywhere in that area, go. Get there. And on Sundays, you got a pastor who's full of the Holy Ghost. And this guy flows. I can tell you right now, there were lots of things about this question that I did not make mention to Pastor Brian. And he was flowing so hard that he was just uncovering the pieces. He's in the flow. He's a true man of God, a true man of the word. So get to that church. We love you, Pastor Brian.
Adolis, I think it's great that you're actually covering this. This is going to probably really help a lot of people because there's an opioid crisis. There's so much going on. Thanks for the opportunity. I'm glad I could help in any way.
Yeah, you're the best.
You need to subscribe to this podcast if you haven't done so. Push the button.
I love you.
Love you too.
Bye. I can tell you right now that he's the real deal. And I'm not saying that to like, for anything, just other than that dude right there. He's the real deal. Okay. An ex-addict. I mean, if you knew his testimony, it would blow your mind. You'd think nobody could ever come back from that. And now he's got the biggest church in Massachusetts. I'm just declaring it. I don't know if that's true, but it's getting up there. He had like 1,000 on Easter. In Massachusetts, if anybody is from New England, that's a miracle. That's a miracle. So if you're anywhere in that area, you ought to just go to Crossroad Community Church. He's the real deal. And that's why I wanted his take on it, because he's been through it on the other side, where maybe, girlfriend at the time, Pastor Jessica, or wife, I don't even know how long they've been married, but, where it was like, I can't do this anymore. I'm out. I'm walking. See you later. And he came to that epiphany himself, where it's like, I can't do this anymore. I'm tired. I can't go this hard. I've seen too much madness. Some of the stuff where the statute of limitations is not even resolved, or has not even happened, for him to freely discuss the things that have happened. And so that's the real deal. That's coming from a guy who was in it. Drug addict, dealer. I mean, major. And now he's pastoring one of the greatest churches in the nation. And he's like a legitimately godly, like man, like great. Just, I can't say enough about him and Pastor Jessica. I just invited her to our Radiance conference these last few months, this year, and the wisdom that one, I was like, where have you been, Crystal Blue Eyes, all my life? That's what I like to call her. Starting now, Crystal Blue Eyes. Where have you been, Crystal Blue Eyes? But she's anointed to preach the word of God. So she's got her first ever women's conference, I think. Maybe it's not her first ever. Maybe it's, I don't know. Maybe the second, third, fourth. I don't know. But she's preaching at it. So big ups to the Crossroads Community Church fam. But I wanted you to hear it from the other end, that there needs to be a change. And someone even made mention, what about alcohol? Absolutely, even alcohol. Anything that's going to cause for there to be the pacification of your spirit, man. The deadening of your spirit. That's why it's called spirits, because it deadens your spirit. And it actually gives you another spirit that's a demonic spirit. And these are things that are all, when it comes to opioids, when it comes to alcohol, these are all things that the devil has perverted from the world, from the plants and crops and all types of things. He did this because he's so good at perverting what's good. And so he perverted with a mixture of all kinds of things, something that God intended for good, to harm children, to harm his children. And so if you see to it that it's another man, everybody has to hide. He treats you differently. He beats you. He abuses you. He harms the children. Whatever that is, alcohol, opioids, whatever that might be, this is what I'm talking about. It's the addiction. It's that kind of addiction. And I find it, there was a litany of wonderful things that the man of God had made mention. But the one thing that really came through for me was it's really a one-sided relationship. It's one that's based out of selfishness. I want to feel this way. And it's coming from somebody who did it. I didn't care about my girlfriend, my family. I just cared about getting high at that time. And literal to hell with everything else. And so it's a violation of covenant for somebody to not put, because that's what the word of God says is husbands, you treat your wife as Jesus treated the church. He gave his life for her. And so if he's acting selfishly in this area, it's a breach of covenant. It's a violation of that covenant. And like Pastor was saying, marriage is an agreement, and you did not agree to that. You didn't agree to his opioid addiction, his alcohol addiction. That wasn't the case when you guys were engaged. It might have been a totally different scenario. And so it was a breach of covenant. That covenant that you gave each other on the day of marriage has not been established. In fact, it's been perverted. And so what do you do in that circumstance? And Pastor had great insight. I could tell you it wasn't the take that I was going for. And that's because I've never experienced, obviously. Jonathan's not an addict. But what is something that has to happen? And what has to happen is a change. You can't pacify it by not controlling or confronting it. And if nothing changes, as Pastor Brian just said, nothing will change. If nothing changes, nothing will change. So you have to change the system, or else nothing is going to change. So his take on it, and I'm right there with him, I agree. There has to be a confrontation, and there has to be an ultimatum, and then you walk. I'm sorry, LaJoy. She said her sister's husband OD'd from drugs last Friday, and nobody she knows had ever talked about the question at hand. She didn't know what to do, but the church kept telling her to stay. All the money, time, and possession have been stolen, and now she's left with a broken heart. I'm sorry that happened to your sister. That pisses me off, to be quite honest with you. It's happening a lot more, and it's so, because I'm telling you, fear is running rampant like never before. Like fear is the ultimate factor for people running away. It's like fear of the unknown, fear of the future, fear of what's going to happen, fear of can this happen again, fear of loss. Loss can invoke fear. What am I going to do? I can't ever be the same with this person in my life anymore. That's fear. And so they have to pacify that fear with something, and drugs are like what's readily available to run away from that. And you'd be surprised the people that are addicted to opioids, like stay-at-home moms, people in their 40s and 50s, women I'm talking about, men, businessmen, Christian men and women who are struggling in this mess, and they don't know how to get out of it. And so I hope this can be like a little bit of an eye-opener for you to let you know, for those of you that are in that Christian bubble, what's really happening out there. These questions are coming in. We're not making these things up. They're coming out from the people that are tuning in and watching our broadcasts every day. And so that's the answer. You confront the situation, and it's not divorce. Divorce is not what we're saying here. We're saying you separate yourself from the situation. That's important, because you don't know who's going to come knocking on your door asking, where's the rest of my money? I mean, people are crazy. When people are demonized, there's no end in sight. I've been to a jail cell. I've seen the things that people do. One guy, I was in there, we were ministering. I was with Brother Kofi. We were at the jail cell, and he killed his girlfriend and his the kid. I think the girlfriend's kid, and like lit the house on fire. So something crazy. And to see the guy, he was like, "Thank you so much for coming." I'm like, "You did what?" And people aren't innately terrible human beings. There's a spirit that controls them. And that spirit opens its way through this drugs, alcohol, anger, to where you're like, there's no way you did that. And it was one mistake, one bad, it's terrible judgment on your behalf. It just costs you something very precious, your freedom, your life, somebody else's life. And it all came because of this. And it's a terrible thing. There's so many like avenues of this that we can tackle, because it doesn't end just in fear. It could be just, poverty will do that. Poverty can open the way to addiction, running from your responsibility because you don't know how to make it. I got to get drunk. I got to get high. I got to do this. I got to do that. To just escape the reality just for a moment. And in that stupor, in that slumber, you do something crazy and it costs you your life, your children's life. You have to close the door once and for all to any avenue that the devil might have in your life. And I'm telling you right now, drugs and alcohol, that's a wide open door. Lots of people say it's a gateway. Like weed is the gateway drug to all those things. Absolutely. Because you're high as a kite. You don't care what else you're trying at the moment. I mean, people have witnessed some crazy things. I'm not even going to read that one. But like people have witnessed some crazy things about people that owed them $10. $10. So I'm telling you, this is not like this is usually it's like a nice, joyful thing, but this is like a heavy topic, but there's a way out of this, and it's to take action right now. Remove yourself from that situation, because it's going to take, and it works. And I'm telling you, he works close, Pastor Brian, he works closely with Teen Challenge. He knows what's out there. He's seen it all. He's heard it all. You're not going to come to Pastor Brian and tell him something that he's going to be like shocked about. He's going to be like, no, this is what you do. That's why I called him. Confront the situation, give him an ultimatum, and walk. And then see, listen, I love you too much to just sit here and watch you waste away into oblivion. I love you too much. I can't let this go. I can't. It's breaking my heart. Watching you this way, watching what you could be, it's breaking my heart, and I can't do it anymore. So I have to walk. And I'm not divorcing you. And then, anger is going to like inevitably take place. You're going to get angry, or he's going to get angry. But when the dust settles and you're no longer there, the presence that he so counted on, because you give him the cuddles and there's different benefits to it, when that's no longer a part of his day to day, there's gonna be a void, and he's gonna have to reflect, what can I do? This is ruining my marriage. And if he's a man that cares even a little bit about you, which he does, which they do, because I'm telling you, if you were to ask them yourself, you need to stop. They'll say, I know. So then what do you have to do? You need to get help. You need to get help. You need to get delivered. You need to get set free. And there's avenues. We just had a close friend relapse. And he tried turning to a family member, and they're like, no, you again? And so he's like, I don't know what else to do. And so we sent him to rehab, to detox. Because it was literally like, he's like, I am in pain, literally from the top of my head to my feet. I can't, I can't, I need help. And so we sent him to rehab, to detox, and then out to Teen Challenge he went. So if you know of anybody, I mean, have a helping hand. Let them know. This can be broken. You need to get clean. There's avenues of ways of getting clean. And you know where that man is right now? Clean, working full time, getting his life back together, and in church. He loves the Lord. So this is not an impossibility Take it from Pastor Brian. Pastor Jessica's on here too. Take it from them. They've lost close friends to drug, to drug related things, alcohol and all that kind of stuff. So they can testify that if you do these things, they will work, but you have to do them. You can't just kind of like wait around and hope that something's going to happen. You have to push. You got to really work through that. And that's one of the ways of doing that. Removing yourself, removing your children from that situation. It's a harmful, toxic thing. And people are all over saying, Teen Challenge changed my life. So I've heard that so many times over. I was just at a wedding, Mercedes and Justin's wedding, and their uncle went to Teen Challenge. And he's a godly man. We enjoyed having conversation. He's had like an encounter with God. Like he's just had nothing but great things to say about his life. He's a gym instructor, successful, happily married. The Lord transformed his life using Teen Challenge. So that's what you ought to do. I hope that helps. And if you need prayer, if you need guidance in any way, our revival today here is we've been dealing with these things now more than ever. So if you need a helping hand, contact us and we'd love to help you. But you got to do something different, especially if it's a Christian household. And do it out of love. Don't be like, well, you shouldn't be doing that. They know. Do it out of love. I love you too much to see you just throw everything away. I love you too much. I care too much about you to have this be a part of you. I've been there myself a time or two, you might have even said. I've been there. I know what it's like to be high. I don't want you to live this way. I don't want you to be in this bondage. I've been there. You can even tell them. Maybe you have, maybe you haven't. If you've been there and you've been delivered, then you know what the hell that is. You thought I was going to say something different. No, it's a literal hell that you're living in. It's like you're living for the next high. Where can I get it? What can I do? I need it. And you forsake everything else. So do it because you love him. Do it because you love her. Thank you for Pastor Brian. I just called him out like just real after the broadcast. I'm like, listen, I need your help up with this topic. And he's like, boom, boom, boom. I said, forget it. You need to come on. And he did it. He was like in a car. So I love having godly men and women who I can call friends that I can, give me and share with me the wisdom of God. So I'm thankful for you guys, Tomes family. All right, that's it. I love you guys. Have a great weekend. Subscribe to this channel if you haven't. And for those of you that are in the Montreal area, it is September 20th. And I want you to go to Good News Chapel in Montreal. They're extending it through Wednesday. And if you're anywhere near Massachusetts tomorrow, Pastor Jessica Tomes from Crossroads Community Church is having a women's event. And she is going to minister. I'm telling you, look past the crystal blue eyes. She's got something awesome to say. She's anointed and appointed to help us along the way. I'm saying us, ladies. So make sure you're there. Jonathan is going to be at River Bible Church, Pastor Rodney's church, on Monday. So make sure to get your butts over there. Again, if you're listening to this after September 20th, 2019, this does not apply. So don't show up. We've had it happen. We've had it happen, people. People don't show up on a replay. And they're like, nobody's here. It's like, that was 3 months ago. So we love you. Thanks for listening. Ciao.
Listening to my podcast, or if you're listening to my wife's, thank you on her behalf. If you want to be more than just a casual listener and stand with us as we take the message of the gospel of Jesus Christ to our generation, go to revivaltoday.com and click Give Now and be a part of the 1,000 monthly partners that we're believing for. I have a special gift that I'll send to you today, and I'll say thank you in advance. Until next time, thanks for listening. See you later.